welcome to Barely Filtered. Today is a solo episode. These episodes are the most, I have the most Sunday scaries about these kind of episodes because I have to entertain you for 40 minutes. I think I can do it because there's a lot to talk about. There's a lot just to unpack, and I know that everybody is going through their own shit, and so I think, from I put out a question box of what's everybody thinking about, and a lot of people, I don't know if it's this time of year or what it is, but a lot of people are dealing with breakups and feeling rejected. The girlfriend goes back with a toxic ex, or, this person says that he just wants to be friends. Something like this happened to me last year, right around this time, and I was so depressed. I was depressed as if my husband of 20 years just got hit by a car and died. Meanwhile, I had just met this guy, did not know anything really about who he was as a person. We went on a few dates, and then something happened where I ended up feeling super rejected. So my friend yesterday called me. She's like, SOS, I'm drinking stale wine right now. He told me he doesn't want to be with me anymore, and then I go on his Instagram and I see that this girl, is in his backyard, and I know, he said he doesn't want to be with anybody, but then why is she I don't know. When you are dating somebody and they tell you, they kind of are like, I'm not ready, whatever, and then you kind of see them be ready with someone else, and you're like, what the fuck? So it really was about me. Nothing is more painful than that. Nothing is more painful than also feeling like you weren't able to show them all your tricks. You weren't able to show all the sides of you. If only they had seen you in different situations, they would never have let you go. And so she was like, please tell me the story of what happened to you last year so then I can feel better about what's happening to me. So I'm going to do that for you guys, because there's nothing that, makes you feel better than hearing somebody else's miserable story. And look at me now. I could care less about the guy. I really, truly, actually, he posts on Instagram all the time, and I'm like, I'm just baffled that I ever thought I was in love with him. I knew logically that I wasn't, but the feelings in my body were as if I was. Okay, we're gonna back up. So I was at this game. I don't want to give too many details because I feel like you guys I know you're smart and I don't want you to figure it out. So I was at a game. Already I'm giving too many details, whatever. I was at a game and we were in a box, not a real box, the box that you go to the fancy place you go to at a game. I was with my sister at a 49ers game, and it was Christian, her now husband, versus the Rams. This guy was there, and I just remember being like, oh, when you show up somewhere and you didn't get ready good enough because you didn't really know that there was going to be, I should have known, but I feel like I didn't have my A game on, and I was just like, oh man, this guy's so cute. I should have done more, which is so dumb because anybody that you end up with truly is going to see you looking horrid. And anyway, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so I end up meeting this guy, and one of my friends kind of stealthily sets us up and is like, oh, she's divorced, you're divorced, you guys should go out. And he was like, yeah, let me get your number. And he actually kind of asked me for my number in a way that was get in line, it was actually not, it was kind of rude the way he said it. I want to think of exactly how he said it. He was like, all right, I get it. I'm single, you're single. I see what she's trying to do here. I'll give you a call. We'll go to lunch. We'll see what it is. He said it kind of like that. And I just remember thinking okay, don't act too excited about it. But I gave him my number anyway. And I just remember driving back with Sophie being like, oh my God, he's so rude. When somebody kind of treats you bad and then you're like, well, I need to figure out, I need to get to the bottom of this. I need to spend more time with this rude person. So anyway, I went to lunch with him. We got along fantastically. I went out with him a few more times, and we got along really well. We had a lot of fun together. We kind of, when you just, I don't know, I was vibing with it. He was too, and we spent a lot of time together. And then this is the part that made my friend feel really good about her situation, about seeing the guy she likes with somebody else. Because what happened was, he asked me out. He was like, okay, let's go out Friday night. This was maybe Wednesday. And then Friday comes along, and I'm not going to text him and be like, what's the plan? So I was kind of waiting for him to text me, but I was like still getting ready. Like it was sad. Like, I have kids, so I need to set up childcare. I need to, like, when you get all pretty and you do all the things. He never called me that night. It gets worse. Never called me that night. Then the next day, I Google him because I figured there might be a little trail of like what he was doing. Maybe something horrible happened to him and it's all over the news, and there it has to be something like that. I see Getty images of him like court seats at the Lakers game with a very beautiful, very famous actress, and I'm just like, oh. Okay, my emotions at that point were obviously rejection. You go through all the stages of grief of being like really mad and then kind of like, making excuses like maybe that's his really good friend and she was having a hard time. His phone died, he couldn't tell me, and then they figured they would go to the basketball game. Anyway, and then I'm like, no, he's a fucking... Anyway, so of course I just call him and I bitch him out. Now, nothing pushes someone further away than being kind of abrasive to them. But he really did. Like, I think he was kind of flattered that I cared so much. And we ended up talking, of course, for like an hour, and it ended with me being like, well, this isn't working for me. I wanted to officially like end it before he could with me, because clearly I was not a priority for him and I needed to feel like the power was mine. So I ended it, and he was just like, yeah, I don't really think that I'm in the place right now to date. That girl is just a friend of mine. I totally forgot about our date, and maybe, I don't know. And it's been a year, and I know that he is friends with that girl, and they never dated or anything. He's had girlfriends since. We decided to just be friends. He still calls me. He still calls me. He still calls me every few months, check in. I feel like guys like that, right when they sense that like maybe you've moved on, they'll call you just to be like, was thinking about you, seeing like what you're up to. Are you still single? But like he hasn't asked me to hang out or anything. Well, one time it was a booty call. We hung out. We ended up hooking up. You know what I'm saying here. And then he never really asked me to hang out again after that, which it kind of goes with this theme that we've been talking about, where like you give them the thing that they probably were holding out for, and then now they're not really interested anymore. But the thing is, it's like, okay, there's a lot more to that, because that was the series of events, but emotionally for me, I don't know if there was a lot of things that played into it, but emotionally for me, that rejection hurt so bad. The way that I felt was not reasonable considering how long I had known this person and how long I knew them for. And so I started deep diving, because that's what I do when I don't feel good. I will YouTube what to do when you feel this way. I find all the experts in this field. I start listening to these speakers from SLAW. SLAW is Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous. Now, I'm not a sex or love addict, but the speakers that speak at these meetings are people who basically, like, in order to be a love addict, all you need to really do is, like, you're basically making another person more important than yourself, and to your detriment. That's really all it takes. When you start having those ruminating thoughts about somebody, like OCD type thoughts, which I feel is very common, it's called limerence. And limerence is a term that they use in SLAW for that exact phenomenon, which is that like you can't get out of this cycle of thinking, and it's self-harm. And I know I'm sounding really dramatic right now, but that's just kind of the way my brain works. And I think a lot of people, especially people with ADHD, like if somebody rejects you, or you hypersensitivity to rejection is a common symptom of ADHD. And I don't really know if this is what it was for me, or if it was just like a breakup that I was having a hard time with. A breakup, like he was not my boyfriend. We went on a few dates. You know, when you're in a situation like that where the rational part of your brain knows that how your brain is behaving is not normal. And so I couldn't stop thinking about this, and I was really upset. So I started just like listening to these speaker videos on YouTube, and I found some people, like some experts in the field. I wish I knew their name. One of them is Candace. I'll find her actually. Candace Crosslake Vandell. Okay, so Candace and then Kroslak Van Vandell, and she talks all about. She's kind of like a coach who talks a lot about relationships and this rejection sensitivity and things like limerence, where you're in this pattern of thinking that's irrational and unreasonable. Anyway, those videos helped me so much, and I ended up totally getting over it within a few weeks. But you know what he did for me that I think is so important? Like, he didn't call me anymore. He called me maybe like a few months later, and he has continued to do that. But I think it's the more dangerous person is the one who still texts you every day but doesn't want to be with you. And that's what my friend's situation is, that I think is horrible, because this guy is like, oh, I'm not ready, blah, blah, blah. Then he'll text her, I miss you. And the thing is, it's like your brain cannot heal the hardwiring of thinking about this person if they're inserting themselves into your brain every single day by text message. It's actually like such a violation of personal space. I have a question from the peanut gallery over here about when I slept with him. What was my motivation behind doing that? I think for me and a lot of women, our sexuality can be used as a weapon and a tool. And I've definitely been guilty of that. I think when I slept with him, I did it not because I loved this man and wanted to share this experience of passion with him. Like, I think I could count on one hand how many times that's probably happened in my life, which is very sad. It was because I thought if I gave him that, then he would realize, wow, this is amazing, and want more of it. Which it was actually the opposite. And I know some of you out there being like, oh, well, you must not be good at sex. That's not the case, okay? That is not it. How to get over somebody who doesn't like you. It's one of the most painful things to accept. But the thing is, and I truly believe this from the bottom of my heart, nothing that is ever meant for you will pass you by. And that, just like meditating on that, knowing that the more you try to control a situation, especially the more you try to control somebody's perception of you, the further away you get from them in intimacy, and oftentimes the more disconnection you have, because it's not about control. When you have synergy, when you have chemistry with something, there's nothing about that is calculated. So when you find yourself in that mode of like plotting and planning, even like plotting and planning like the outfit that you're going to wear, girls, we know what I'm talking about. It's like, you're like, I'm going to shave in the morning so that my legs are silky smooth and I don't have any stubble. And then I'm going to get a spray tan the night before. And it like the amount of effort we put in to trying to like trick somebody, it's really tricking. It's not tricking, but it's like to try to convince somebody to like us. It's just not it. And when you really think about the times in your life when something beautiful and organic and really like a true connection has happened, it was never because you got that spray tan the night before. Never, ever. So that's my spiel on that. And now I'm going to move into a different topic. Okay. 2 celebrities this morning popped up on my feed. Very famous. I'm just going to tell you guys so you know, but it was Kristen Cavallari and Call Her Daddy, whatever her name, Alex Cooper. Okay. So it was these 2 really, I mean, if you can think of a boss bitch, this is a boss bitch. I'm not talking like Oprah. I'm talking like, what level can I put these people at? More of like a somebody that's in the influencer space, but top tier, like A-list influencer. And they're going on and on. This 2 totally separate videos, on and on about how this is how I got here. You know, I put my head down. I worked. I didn't I didn't listen to outside voices, and I just kind of did my own. I need to. No, you know what? I actually wrote something down about this because I knew it's like a hard thing to talk about. Okay. basically they were going on and on about how they reached the height of their success that they're now currently in, and trying to give advice to other people on how to get there. And one thing that I just find so irritating is when people try to take full credit for their own success. I know that sounds counterintuitive, and like, obviously these people have worked very hard. Nobody gets to the top without putting in the hours and without, honing their craft. But to take full credit for the success that you have accomplished, it bothers me so much, because we all know that there's so many things that have to go right in order to make it to the top. And one of those things really just is luck. It's like luck. It's being in the right place at the right time. It's choosing the right people on your team. It's having the right connections. Sometimes it's who you dated, who your dad is, there are things that help you get a leg up in life. And I find it just to be so arrogant to be like, oh, I did it because I worked so hard. You need to give credit to the people who helped you get there. And I also think it perpetuates this toxic competition between people, because there's no humility, and it's a very independent, isolating way to look at the world, that each of us are on our own little path, and it's who's working harder than the other, and who's grinding more than the other person. And that's just not how it works. Success can happen in a week from seemingly doing nothing, and or it can happen very slowly, brick by brick. There's so many different ways that it can happen. But I guess for me, it's just annoying, because I really enjoy working with other people, community, and I think success is so much more fun when you can share it with other people who feel like they had a part in it too. And that's what we're made to be like. We're made to live in community, and we're made to know that we can't do every job ourselves. We're not meant to do every job ourselves. Everybody is meant to work together. And that's my spiel for now. I haven't really truly formed exactly what I want to say. And I know I'm going to piss some people off, because I don't want to take away from the hard work people have put into reaching certain successes, but I just feel like these people need a little humility. It's arrogant, it's not humble, and it kind of goes against what I believe is what we should all be looking to do more of, and that is to work in community and to work together, and to not feel like you're meant to do every job and that you're the best at doing every job, because you're not. And that's all I have to say about that. Yeah.
That you're wanting
my pit stains, yeah.
You're wanting to create that kind of a community.
Yeah.
You said, why am I saying this? Well, maybe because that's the people you want to listen, that's the people you want to call in, that's the people you want to DM, that's the community you want to create.
Yeah. And I think this might be just a little seedling for something that I'm kind of starting to think about creating myself, which is a community for people who have different skill sets, who can be equally celebrated, and who can feel like, even though maybe they're not in front of the camera getting all of the pats on the back. And that's the thing, it's so many people who have worked so hard don't get the credit, don't get the pat on the back, because a lot of it's behind the scenes, or they've worked so hard in bad luck. Things happen. There's a million different reasons why people wouldn't hit the top, and there's a million different reasons why people do. But either way, it's never just you by yourself. There's always people around you, and that's why it's important to surround yourself with people who do things better than you do in certain ways, and who you can help and they can help you. And I just feel like this is kind of what we should be working towards more, and not just this oh, here's how I built my empire, and maybe you can build yours if you do exactly what I say. That's not how life works. Now I think maybe I'll just go into some questions that were in my DMs from random people. One guy that I'm currently talking to, like by talking to, I mean like, okay, he's a singer and his voice is so amazing. And he like DM'd me on Instagram or something, and then I DM'd him back, and I think he's very sexy, mostly because his voice is like, he sounds like he's black, so he has that like really, you know, like just white people can't do that with their voice. Just like that really soulful voice, big range. He's an amazing singer. He's going to be in New York this weekend. I'm going to be in New York, so we've never met. I'm going to meet him. And I put up on my Instagram, guys, tell me what you want me to talk about. And he wrote this long thing that is making me a little scared. So I'm going to read it to you guys. I find it interesting that the heart of man/woman, as I've observed, desires to be with one person. And I wonder where that desire for the nuclear family comes from. I'd say overall, polyamory is a patriarchal construct. And while I have female friends who speak on that desire to be in a relationship like that, I've noticed that most end with two being together. Okay, so like he has friends who are in polyamorous relationships, but it always ends up that like two people like each other and then end up being monogamous. And while we have thousands of years of human history where polyamory ruled, I don't think a majority of both parties were actually happy with it. Now, happy in times where you hunt for your food was more practical, so safety was happy, secure was happy. But that feeling of heartache, jealousy, fear, did they still feel that knowing their person was with others? I think the answer is yes. Oh, okay. I actually kind of like this question. So I think, yeah. So like thousands of years ago when polyamory really was a thing, I think it was a survival thing. Being jealous that the one that you like more is sleeping with this guy and whatever. The jealousy that comes with knowing that somebody you like is sleeping with other people, I think probably got put on the back burner when they were running from saber-toothed tigers. I think relationship struggles kind of come under like trying to protect your children from enemy tribes and getting food on the table. I don't know if they had tables. And things like that. Surprised that he has girlfriends who are into polyamory. I feel like women, at least the ones I know, seem to be just a little more territorial. Men, I guess men too, but not the men that I've always surrounded myself with, which by the way, like are usually similar to the ones that I grew up with in my like family of origin. So Italian, Catholic, kind of traditional type man would never would love to have the freedom to sleep around. They don't want their woman doing that, but they would like to. So I don't know. I think in general, people prefer to be one-on-one, like penguins. I do think that humans are wired to mate for life. I just think that in the past, life was much shorter, and old age. What you could look at a photo from the show Cheers. Do you know those people were like 25? Okay, Alice from the Brady Bunch. Picture her, guys. She was 35. I'm 35. That's scary. Anyway, so life is longer now. Back in the day, I think it was like 1 out of every 4 children that you had died. Horrible. Like the people suffered tremendous losses. People died all the time. They didn't have vaccines. I'm not going to get into vaccines right now, but like some vaccine, they didn't come on, people aren't dying from polio anymore. I'm not saying that everybody needs to get that shot now, but at a time when people are dropping like flies from something and there's a vaccine that could save you, I think it's a good one, but I don't think you should be forced to take it. And I don't think that we're not going to go there. Anyway. Okay. So I got a question. She says, my best friend and I have some great business ideas, but no clue where to start. You know what? Okay, so I just was like, I asked my manager because I was like, I don't know. I don't consider myself to be business savvy. I'm trying to like consider myself to be more business savvy so that I can own that. You want to know where to start for real? She said do something small every day. She actually had the idea for period panties before period panties came out. Who knew? And I told her, wow, that's a disgusting idea. I would have told you that, but I actually have period panties and I love them. So I think I'm going to give you a few different tips because David Guillaume came on here and he was somebody who was like, listen, if you have an idea and it's in its infancy state, don't share it with people because the energy from other people, even just like me saying, like, if she had told me the period panty idea, I would have been like, that's the dumbest idea ever. And then maybe she never would have made them. Maybe that's why she didn't make them, because somebody told her, you're gross, go away. But somebody else didn't ask around, and they got rich. I don't think you should be swayed by like the market is saturated, because there's not one market that's not saturated, and there's always room at the top. So that's my business advice for you. So this is a true story, not fiction. It was last summer. It was summer after my divorce, and I met a girl who had a lot of masculine energy. You know, when you just kind of meet somebody and something about them has something. This is what it was. I was coming off my divorce. I didn't know at the time. I was actually having panic attacks. I was having these things where like my hands would go numb and I couldn't breathe, but it would come at times when I wasn't nervous about anything. And that's something I never knew about panic attacks, that like you can just be driving along like happy, whatever, and then be like, and like I'm like, oh my God, what's happening to me? So I was going through a lot of stress. And I think it's interesting the way your body and mind and your emotions play with, like, can trick you when you're stressed. Because I actually, if you had asked me during that time, how are you? I would have been like, I'm fine. Like, you know, I would have probably been like, oh, the lawyer probably, you know, I would have complained about everything, but I wouldn't be like, I'm like, my brain thinks that I'm dying and it needs to like shut down my extremities so that I can survive. Anyway, so all of that to say, I wasn't like, I was stressed. And I met this person who was so just grounded, calm, like they were everything that I was not at that time. And I was like, I think I was confused because I had such a crush on her. And I ended up going to Europe with my sisters and with Jackson, who is Olivia's assistant, but Jackson's very gay. And I'm like, Jackson, I'm gay too. Like, we're the same. And he's like, he was so excited. He was rooting for that relationship so hard. But I thought she was so hot. I was like, even sexually. Okay, so I told the story to a guy who I went on a date with once. It's actually the guy with the clicky shoes and the dead wife. And he asked me, did you think about like having sex with her? Because like that's how you know if you actually. And I was like, yes, up into the point where like you need to like go down on a girl. That I could never really, like, I just couldn't get there. I didn't want to. That's how I think I knew I wasn't a lesbian. But everything else lined up. Like, I had our life planned together. It was I was trying to figure out a way where like we could still be together but not have to do that. And everybody was like, no, you have to. That's part of the gig. And it took me a little bit to come to terms with that. Then what happened was we actually ended up becoming really good friends, and we still are really good friends. So she doesn't know about that whole story, and don't tell her. That's why I didn't tell a name. But if you figured it out, don't tell her. That's very embarrassing for me. She might never look at me the same. But I think she kind of knows. But I actually did have a friend also in college that I hooked up with once, who's a girl. Same kind of person, though. Like, I think if I was a lesbian, I would like more butch lesbians because I guess they remind me of a dude. Well, that's all I got for you guys today. I hope that you got your money's worth. I did say it was a day for oversharing, and I feel like I might have some sharing. Literally on my feed yesterday, Dr. Amen was like, don't say everything you think. That is the surest way to ruin relationships. And I was just like, over and out. I hope everybody has a great day and rest of your week. And please, please, please leave me a voicemail, please, please, at speakpipe.com/barelyfiltered. Thank you.